Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
Go Dogs!
Hold up. Y'all didn't think he was going to leave the state, did you? No. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Jason Jones, in the end, no surprise that he decided to stay in state and commit to the Crimson Tide, but he did make a few fans nervous. He trolled the Georgia Bulldogs a little bit in that video from AL.com, all in good fun, though. And Jason Jones is headed to Alabama for the class of 2020. Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and once again tonight we've got nice ice-cold Pepsi Zero Sugar. Max taste, zero sugar, which means no calories. You like that sound? Let me tell you something. It tastes even better going down. Ah, that hits the spot. Remember to pick up some great Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery store from Buffalo Rock. Well, Rodney, Nick Saban is on his way to what possibly could be another top-ranked recruiting class in 2019 and really wasting no time working on the #1 class for 2020. Saban added Jason Jones, the top recruit in Alabama for the class of 2020, the four-star two-way tackle from Calera. Always wanted to play for the Crimson Tide, but he said what surprised him was how much Coach Saban wanted him to come to Alabama.
Nick Saban was really happy about it, and when I did tell him, and he himself told me that he wanted me to come to Bama, and that kind of shocked me. I'm like, wow, like the head coach from the school that I've always been a fan of has told me that he wants me to come to Alabama, so that was a shocker.
You know, that's refreshing to see a young man who. Sometimes now they try to play it cool. He just lets you know, hey, I'm thrilled. Nick Saban wants me to play at the school that I grew up wanting to play for. Tell me about him as a player. I call him a two-way tackle because he plays both ways in high school for Andrew Zal there at Calera High School. I think he projects probably as a defensive tackle here first. Here he is, number 73 on the offensive line. But some people are comparing him to Raekwon Davis because of the size. Tell me what you know about Jason Jones.
Yeah, you mentioned it, Gary. I mean, obviously great size, good feet, guy that can play on both sides of the ball. There are some people that think, he might be an offensive lineman, but, he's projected as a defensive lineman, Gary. So anytime you can get a guy like that, 6'6", 320, 330, does kind of remind you a little bit of maybe Raekwon Davis coming out of high school, but wow. I mean, he's very impressive in every way.
Years ago, this was pretty uncommon. I mean, you worked on one class, you wrapped that up, and then you started on the next one. But now we're seeing more and more of this. You're working on 2019, but already 5 commits for 2020. This is kind of the way of the world. If there's a big-time prospect and he's ready to commit, you go ahead and take him.
Back in the day, Gary, I remember the current class, you didn't really start getting commitments till November or December. Yeah. I mean, January was huge, and now, you're about done. So, yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, obviously, they're kind of identifying these players. I mean, look, Jason Jones, he's not very hard to identify.
Yeah, you can pick him out.
Yeah, but, again, I think obviously they start identifying these guys when they're much younger now, and, the process starts very early.
As we talked about on my radio show yesterday, Alabama recruits nationally, and I like that because you don't win 5 championships in 9 years without recruiting nationally. But still, the base is Alabama. Nick Saban makes it clear when they identify the best prospects in Alabama, they want to get those guys, and they've done a good job of that. Some years you sign more players in-state than other years, but 2019, 2020, both good in-state years, and Alabama's doing very well.
Good years, and I think, we look back at last year, maybe it wasn't the greatest year, and I think, Alabama really needs to have some players from the state of Alabama have good years so that they can get the best players in this state as a part of the program, and they do that, Gary. But like you said, sometimes there's just not as many as there's there are this year and maybe next year.
Well, Alabama also added to its already loaded 2019 class last week. On the offensive side of the ball, Keilan Robinson, a 4-star running back from St. John's School in Washington, D.C., committed to Alabama last Wednesday on Twitter. Robinson's the #1 running back in the D.C. area and the number 18 in the nation, according to the 24/7 composite rankings. He narrowed his list to Penn State, Florida State, Maryland, Michigan, and Southern Cal before choosing the Crimson Tide. Rodney, tell me about this young man. Versatile running back, not a big, powerful guy, but a guy that can do a lot of things on offense and then help in the kicking game as well.
Yeah, he is versatile, Gary. I know when you look at him, obviously he can do a lot of things. He's maybe not the size that we've seen some of the running backs that Alabama generally gets right now. He's probably 5'10", 190 or so, but very, very fast, very elusive, a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, do a lot of different things. Obviously, he's not as big as Kenyon Drake, but he can do some versatile things like him. You talked about returning kicks. You know, Alvin Kamara, remember, he was originally an Alabama player, signed with Alabama in that year when they signed Derrick Henry and some other guys. But, you know, I just think his versatility, his speed, his hands, his feet, all of those things, Gary, he's very valuable.
And he's not a big kid, but as you saw in those workout pictures, the workout video, very, very well put together, very strong.
Very quick.
Another nice pickup for Alabama. And the Tide in what they call now the DMV, the District, Maryland and Virginia, Alabama has just been tearing it up there in recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. I mean, I think they got the best pass rusher in the country in last year's class. Yabi Anoma from Baltimore. I mean, Terrell Lewis is from that area. So many guys. Shane Lee is committed from that area. DeMarco Helms is another one in this class that's committed from that area. And again, Gary, it's I think you had an interview on your radio show, and your guest
a reporter from the Washington Post said, you know, those kids at St. John's.
Yeah. That's the place to be.
The pipelines to Bama.
Yeah.
They got more prospects there that have Alabama offers. Well, Rodney, from future players to former players, the festivities continue for Daron Payne in his home state. The former Alabama defensive tackle was invited to throw out the ceremonial first pitch of the Birmingham Barons home game against the Jackson Generals last Friday night. The Birmingham native and former Shades Valley standout spent the last couple of weeks in Birmingham. He also was part of the unveiling of the Hands of Gold painting inspired by his touchdown catch in the semifinal game against Clemson. Steve Skipper did that painting. They unveiled it at the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. He, of course, was selected 13th overall by the Washington Redskins. Should have a big rookie season. And he said that Alabama really helped prepare him for what's to come in the National Football League.
It just taught you how to work and like the little things it takes to become like a great athlete, and the things that you want to succeed in life. Just you gonna have to work at it, and I think that's what it taught me.
And that's another example. Just 3 years ago, he was coming to Alabama as a freshman, made a quick impact, came out as a junior, 13th overall pick. Now about the NFL.
Yeah, they prepare them, they develop them. Gary not only recruit those guys, but did you notice his technique is not bad throwing?
Yeah,
huh?
and some of those guys don't always do well, but he made a nice pitch there on the mound. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, former Alabama basketball player Marcus Campbell gave back to his Sumter County community last week at his annual Future Star basketball camp. Find out more on this great camp coming up next. And also, later on in the program, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the information on your screen as always. Call us at 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us, TITV@WVUA23.com, or tweet at us. Make sure you use that hashtag TITV so Trent, who's in for Brandon tonight producing the program, can find your tweet and get it on the air. We'll be back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The one, the only Tider Insider TV will return right after this timeout. San Francisco 49ers linebacker Reuben Foster has been suspended for the first 2 games of the 2018 NFL season. The suspension's for breaking the NFL's personal conduct and substance abuse policy after he was charged with possession of a weapon and possession of marijuana. Foster was arrested in Tuscaloosa in January for marijuana possession, but the charge was later removed after he took part in a diversionary program. Foster was then arrested in California in February and charged with felony domestic violence, making criminal threats, and felony weapon possession. But those charges were dropped after the accuser recanted under oath. The former Alabama star will be allowed to practice with the team during training camp and participate in preseason games, but will sit out the first 2 regular season games. Now, Rodney, you could sit here and say, listen, all the charges were dropped. In the marijuana possession charge was removed because he went through that program, and he's still getting suspended. He put out a statement saying that he will not challenge the suspension. The club said they're okay with it. Yeah, and some part of you wants to say, well, he really wound up not being guilty of anything. At the same time, 2 months ago, if you'd have said, listen, you're only going to miss the first 2 games, most Alabama fans would have jumped for joy. At one time, it looked like his career might be over. So all in all, hopefully he's learned a lesson that will carry him through the rest of his career about his behavior and people that he hangs out with. And to only miss the first 2 games, that means he'll get to play 14 games plus the preseason games. I think all in all, he's probably, and I'm just assuming this, probably pretty satisfied with his outcome.
He's extremely fortunate.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, he cannot afford any more scrapes.
No, not at all.
He really needs no more scrapes.
He's got to, as we said, he's had issues going back to high school, but he's an incredible football player. The 49ers stuck by him. I'm glad they did. It proved to be the right move. But yeah, you've got to walk the straight and narrow, because when he's on the football field, Rodney, he's one of the best. Handle your business off the field. Some people have said, well, it's like Rolando McClain. I think there's one difference. Rolando McClain, I don't think, loved football as much as Reuben Foster does. Would you agree with that?
It's very possible. But I'll say this, Gary, you know, you look at him, he didn't get in any scrapes here.
Right.
There wasn't any trouble. I mean, he did a fantastic job, and I think that's part of what the Alabama program is.
Yeah. And glad for Reuben, though, that he's going to get to play. All right, along with Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Let's get on to some other topics. Tua Tagovailoa is following his brother's footsteps and impressing Alabama fans before he even steps on campus. The younger brother of Tua won the long toss competition at Nike Football's The Opening this past weekend in Dallas. Tua is part of the Elite 11 finalists that are all competing at The Opening in Texas. His throw of 66 yards outdistanced Auburn commitment Bo Nix by 2 yards. We're looking at some other footage of Tua. Granted, Rodney, he's got another year of high school, but much like Tua, he's just got some gifts physically in terms of throwing the football. Yeah, he does it right-armed, and Tua does it left-arm. But this is a gifted young man. There's no denying his talent.
I'm going to really be anxious to watch him play some this year, Gary, in person. I mean, I think he's gotten better. I think he's helped himself physically. He's gotten in better shape. He's matured. I mean, that's part of it. So I think that maturing process has certainly helped him physically, and he does have a great arm, obviously. I think he's got a lot of those instincts you're talking about, the accuracy and all of those things. And you know, I don't put a lot of stock in that Elite 11, but obviously the long ball throwing contest, I mean, that's a measurement that you can.
Hey, 66 yards is 66 yards. And, you know, he plays for a really good high school coach in Mark Freeman there at Thompson and Alabaster. Well, former Alabama receiver Tyrone Prothro started his coaching career a few years ago, getting into some NFL training camps with the help of Mike Shula. Then last year he was on the staff at Spanish Fort down on the coast, but his family remained here in Tuscaloosa. He wanted to get closer to home. Jasper, the Vikings, have hired Tyrone to be an assistant coach. He's still working on his teaching certificate. He was on my radio show this morning, but this is a guy who we know what would have been his future. It would have been the National Football League if it had not been for that horrendous injury against Florida in 2005 where he tore up his knee. But good to see him becoming a coach. I think he'll be a good one. And former Alabama basketball star Marcus Campbell hosted the Future Star basketball camp last week at Sumter Central High School. The two-day camp allowed boys and girls in the 5th to 12th grades to learn basketball fundamentals and life skills free of charge. How great is that? Now in its 18th year, Campbell has had kids from counties all across Alabama and even all the way from Mississippi participate in the camp. And following the camp, he had a lot to say about Alabama's recent lottery pick, Colin Sexton, and the impact that he thinks Sexton will have with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
He's a great NBA prototype with the athleticism and the way he runs up and down the floor. He's a motor, and he's the type of guy that the Cavs need. He will be a great fit for Cleveland.
And there'll be no LeBron James. We know he's going to the Lakers. It's going to make it tougher on Colin from that standpoint. At the same time, as a rookie, he kind of gets to step up and become the face of the franchise, right?
Yeah,
a great
it really
opportunity
does.
for him.
I think you're right, Gary. The Cavs are going to be a team that I know a lot of Alabama fans already excited to watch.
Yeah, they'll be in transition, but Colin Sexton, he's going to start. No doubt in my mind, and he's going to be one of their leaders right off the bat. Looking forward to watching him play in the NBA. Now to golf. After disappointing outings at the U.S. Open and the Travelers Championship, Justin Thomas got back on track with a top 10 finish at the French Open. Thomas headed into the final round in 5th place and 6 shots behind the leader, but couldn't quite get back to the top and make up that ground. Still a nice finish at the Le Golf National Course, where the Ryder Cup will be played later this year. That's one reason he went over to play there in that event, because he'll be representing Team USA later this year at the Ryder Cup. Well, Alabama Athletics is once again leading the nation in academic All-America honors as selected by the College Sports Information Directors of America, COSIDA for short. 11 total during the 2017-18 academic year. The Crimson Tide's total also makes Alabama the only school to earn double-digit honors the last 5 years in a row. Alabama has earned academic All-America honors, a Division I best 88 times since 2009-2010 and 56 times over the last 5 years. That is impressive. Not getting it done just on the playing surfaces, but in the classroom as well. And up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Go ahead and call in now so you can get through. 205-348-9882 is that number. There's the email address. You can also tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. More Tider Insider will roll on from Tuscaloosa right after this. Former Bama baseball coach Mitch Gaspard, a really good guy, is coming back to the SEC after spending the last couple years at Kansas State as an assistant for the Wildcats. Gaspard is joining the Georgia staff as a volunteer assistant. Gaspard spent 7 years as the Tide's head coach and then 2 stints prior to that as an assistant. He led Alabama to 4 regionals as the head coach, and again, a great guy. Glad to see him back in the SEC. Ready to take some phone calls?
Sure.
First up, our pal Trey over in West Blockton. Hey, Trey, how you doing, pal?
Hey, what's up, fella?
Very well.
Okay.
Hey, well, this is Trey Hickman, of course. That was Keaton Hickman chiming in. He's
All right, Keaton.
fan. Hey, guys, I was going to comment about the DB unit this year. Of course, the D-line, I don't think anybody's really on the edge of their seat about how that's going to be. I feel pretty comfortable, and the linebacker core could be one of the best ever. I mean, if everything falls into place. But, you know, the corner the DBs in general, corners and safeties, it's a big question mark surrounding it. They're intriguing, the talent's there, but, you know, who knows? And I was going to get Rodney maybe to chime in or comment on
Yeah, Trey, absolutely. You're right. They're going to be young and unproven for the most part, but Rodney, as Trey said, there is talent, a lot of it.
Yeah. You know, Trevon Diggs, obviously, he had won the job at left corner last year before the season, and he started the Florida State game and had a couple of mistakes, and eventually we know what happened, and Levi Wallace came on and did a fantastic job. But Trevon Diggs is a great talent, I think. Got a lot of natural football instincts. Savion Smith is a highly recruited player coming out of high school, and then from this junior college transfer that, you know, he came in December. And I think those two guys, Gary, right now, you look at them, you think one's going to be the right corner, which would be Savion Smith, left corner, Trevon Diggs. I think some other guys, obviously, Shy Carter's a guy that's been around a while. He's going to compete at that star position. Maybe Patrick Surtain. There's an influx of a lot of young players. Then at the safety spots, I really like Deontay Thompson, and I really like Xavier McKinney. A couple of young. Well, obviously Deontay started the last 2 games of the year, but Xavier McKinney, a rising sophomore, I think he's got a chance to be really good.
All right, Trey, thanks a lot. Let's get to Sammy in Walker County. Hey, Sammy, what's going on, man?
Hey, Gary, Rodney, glad to talk with y'all guys. Hope you're doing well. Picked about 11 just a little while ago, Gary.
All right, I'm going to be ready for some tomatoes soon. And watermelons, too.
In my mind.
All right, tell us what you got.
That defensive line, tradition-wise, has always been the backbone of the whole team, and they are this year, too. They'll be great. Raekwon Davis, he can be just as good as he wants to be if he can just get motivated to be great, because he's got greatness in him if he'll just show it. What do y'all think?
I agree with that, Rodney. He's got a lot of tools. They got a lot of guys with a lot of tools. I'm with Sammy. I know a lot of guys on to the NFL, but I don't think there'll be that much of a drop-off.
We talk about the defensive line. I really like Craig Kulagowski, the new defensive line coach. I think he's got a great reputation developing players, has done a fantastic job in this conference when he was at Missouri, was at Miami and did a great job. I think he's going to really help some of these guys, Raekwon Davis, Quinnen Williams, Isaiah Buggs, LeBrian Ray. I mean, there are a lot of really talented young defensive linemen that I think he'll do a great job with.
All right, more phone calls coming up right after this on TITV. Again, there's the number. We'll be back after this break. Our Green Track Bama Bingo trivia question of the week is this. Who holds the Alabama record for career rushing yards? You can answer on WVOA 23's Facebook page for a chance to win a Green Track Bama Bingo Free Play Power Pack. Boy, there's some good choices there. Sean Alexander, Mark Ingram, Bobby Humphrey. Derrick Henry are your choices. Go to our Facebook page now and answer for a chance to win in Green Track's Bama Bingo contest. All right, we got time for one phone call. Stephen in Northport has been patiently waiting. Take it away, Stephen.
Hey, guys. First of all, I want to wish you, Gary, and Rodney, and the Tighter Insider staff a happy and safe 4th of July.
Thank you.
Second of all, I want to say I've been watching this for years. I want to thank y'all for a good quality show. Any Alabama fan that's not watching it is missing out. Now, my question is, the local talent, not just Tuscaloosa, our surrounding counties, Fayette, Walker, Green, what are some of the star athletes that are being recruited, not just by Alabama, but some of the nations?
Yeah, I tell you what, Stephen, that's a great question. We are really short on time tonight. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to file that one away because this year, for this coming class, there's not a lot of players that Alabama is recruiting here, right here locally, certainly in Birmingham and other areas. But there are some prospects. We'll get to that next week. A great question. We are just short on time. We've got to go ahead and wrap it up. But thanks for our phone calls tonight. We got several emails that we couldn't get to. We'll file those away and get to them as next week as well. We're going to come back and wrap up this edition of Tighter Insider TV on a Tuesday evening from right here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. We'll be back after this. Alabama sophomore swimmer Christian Stryker's got some moves in and out of the pool. This is him doing some Beyonce dance moves. He did them before some swim meets, and gosh, they went viral. So here in Tuscaloosa, he decided to break it out for us on camera today. I mean, that guy has got the music in him. Something to watch right there. All right, our beautiful shirts and ties provided, as always, by the Locker Room in downtown Tuscaloosa, home of the original elephant wear, but much more as well in men's and women's wear. Go by and see them downtown. Great staff there. They'll take really good care of you. Mr. Alex and Rush, they'll do the job, or you can shop online at locker-room.biz. Go by and see them at the Locker Room and look your best. With football season coming up, you want to get ready with some of that original elephant wear. And don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch the replay this evening at 10:30, right after the news at 10, and online anytime at WVOA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks to Trent tonight for stepping in for Brandon Cameraman and producing the program. We'll be back again next week with Tighter Insider TV right here on WVOA 23.